If you clicked on this, you already know. Something pulled you here. Not the title, not the thumbnail. Something underneath all of that. A knowing that has lived in you longer than you can remember. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you is not a metaphor, and it is not a feeling. There are two angels assigned to this moment, and they have heard every prayer you thought went nowhere. I want you to let that sink in before we go one word further. Every prayer you whispered when the house was dark and everyone else was asleep. Every prayer you didn't even finish because the tears took over. Every prayer you said in your car in the parking lot before you walked into a job that was slowly killing your spirit. Every one of them was heard. Not by an empty ceiling. Heard. You were told silence meant no. You were told that when heaven goes quiet, it means heaven isn't listening. I'm here to tell you that silence was never rejection. Silence was preparation. And the two messengers standing in this season of your life are not here to comfort you with soft words. They're here to warn you. Because warning is what you give to someone you're about to promote. Let me explain what I mean. There's a moment in the life of Daniel that almost nobody talks about. We love the lion's den. We love the part where the mouths are shut, and the king runs to the pit at dawn, expecting to find bones, and finds a man alive instead. But before any of that, Daniel had been praying. For 21 days he had been praying, and nothing came. No answer, no sign. Just silence pressing down on him like a weight on his chest. And I imagine Daniel did what you have done. He wondered if God had stopped listening. He wondered if his prayers were bouncing off the sky. And then a messenger arrives, an angel. And the first thing this angel says is something that should change how you read your own silence forever. He says, "From the first day you set your heart to understand, your words were heard." From the first day, not the 21st, the first. Think about that for a second. The answer left the throne room the moment Daniel opened his mouth. The delay was not God ignoring him. The delay was a war happening in the unseen, a battle over the very message Daniel was waiting for. The angel was held up, resisted, fought for 21 days to deliver an answer that had been released on day 1. And here's what most people miss. You have been measuring God's love by how fast He answers, and that is the most natural thing in the world to do, but it is exactly backwards. The silence you've been grieving was not God's absence. It was the sound of something being fought for on your behalf. There were forces that did not want that answer to reach you. There was resistance in the air over your life. And the only reason there was a battle at all is because what's coming to you is worth fighting over. You don't go to war over something worthless. The enemy does not waste energy resisting a person who isn't going anywhere. The very pressure you've been under is the evidence that you are carrying something heaven considers valuable enough to contest. So when I tell you that two angels are warning you, I don't mean two angels are scaring you. I mean two angels are positioning you. There is a difference between fear and warning. Fear says run. Warning says get ready. And everything in your spirit that has felt off lately, the restlessness, the inability to settle, the sense that your old life doesn't fit anymore, like a coat you've outgrown, that's not you falling apart. That's you being prepared. Let me tell you about a man named Gideon, because I think you'll see yourself in him. When we meet Gideon, he is hiding. He's beating out wheat in a wine press, which, if you know anything about it, is the wrong place to do it. You thresh wheat out in the open, where the wind can carry away the chaff. But Gideon is doing it down in a pit, in secret, because he's terrified the enemy will see him and take what little he has. This is a man living small, living scared, living beneath what he was made for. And an angel shows up, sits down under a tree like he has all the time in the world, and the first words out of the angel's mouth are not, "Gideon, why are you hiding?" The first words are, "The Lord is with you, mighty man of valor." Mighty man of valor, to a guy crouching in a hole, to a guy who, 3 verses later, is going to argue that his family is the weakest in the whole tribe, and he is the least in his father's house. The angel didn't call Gideon what he was. The angel called Gideon what he was going to be. Heaven addressed the future, not the hiding place. And I need you to hear this, because I think you've been talking to yourself the way Gideon talked to himself. I think you've been listing all the reasons it can't be you. The wrong family, the wrong past, the mistakes, the years you feel like you wasted, the voice in your head that says, "Who do you think you are?" And meanwhile, heaven is sitting under the tree calling you something completely different than what you've been calling yourself. The two angels in this season are not confused about your past. They simply are not assigned to it. Their assignment is what comes next. And that is why this feels like a warning, because they are telling you to stop living in the winepress. The hiding is over. The thing you've been preparing for in secret is about to require you in the open. Now, I want to slow down here, because I know what some of you are doing right now. You're hearing all of this, and a part of you is leaning in, and another part of you is bracing. Because every time hope shows up at your door, you've learned to be careful with it. You've had it before. You've believed before. And it cost you. So there's a voice saying, don't get your hopes up. Don't be foolish again. I'm not asking you to be foolish. I'm asking you to be honest about what you already know. There is a reason you've never been able to fully blend in. There is a reason the things that satisfy everyone around you have always left you a little hungry. There is a reason you feel responsible for things you didn't cause and burdened for people you barely know. That's not a personality flaw. That's a calling that has been knocking on the inside of you for years, and you kept telling it the timing was bad. Let me tell you about Hannah, because Hannah understood prayer the way few people ever do. Hannah wanted a child and could not have one. And year after year she went up to the house of God, and year after year she came home with empty arms. And there's a moment where she's praying, really praying. The kind where your lips are moving but no sound is coming out. The kind that doesn't even have words anymore, just groaning. And the priest watching her thinks she's drunk. That's how raw it was. That's how far past polite, composed, church-appropriate prayer she had gone. She wasn't performing. She was pouring out. And here's what I want you to catch about Hannah. The answer to her prayer didn't just bless her, it changed a nation. Because the child she was crying for was Samuel, the prophet who would anoint kings, the voice that would speak for God to an entire generation. Hannah thought she was praying for her own ache to be relieved. She had no idea she was praying a deliverer into existence. You don't always know what your prayers are really for. You think you're asking for relief. You think you're asking for a door to open, a bill to be paid, a relationship to heal. And those things matter. God is not too holy to care about your rent. But sometimes, the prayer you've been praying for yourself is actually a prayer that's going to land on someone you haven't even met yet. Your breakthrough was never only about you. It never is, for people like you. That's why the silence stretched so long. That's why it cost so much. You weren't praying a small prayer. You were praying something into the earth that the enemy did not want born. And the two angels heard all of it. The polished prayers and the broken ones. The ones with words, and the ones that were just you sitting in the dark, unable to say anything at all. Especially those. Because the prayers that don't have words are usually the truest ones you'll ever pray. Now let me tell you about Jeremiah. Because Jeremiah is for everyone watching who feels too young, too unqualified, too unfinished to be the one heaven is talking to. When God calls Jeremiah, Jeremiah's first response is basically a panic. He says, I can't speak. I'm only a youth. I don't know how to do this. You've got the wrong person. He throws every excuse he has on the table. And what does God say back to him? God says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I set you apart. Before the womb. Before the first heartbeat. Before Jeremiah had done one single thing right or wrong, he had already been chosen and set apart for a purpose. I want you to feel the weight of that word before. Your calling did not begin when you got your life together. Your calling did not begin when you finally cleaned up the mess, or learned the right words, or felt worthy. Your calling was deposited in you before you took your first breath, before your parents named you, before the world got its hands on you and told you who you were allowed to be. The two angels are not reacting to who you've become. They're confirming who you've always been. And notice what God doesn't do. God doesn't argue with Jeremiah about whether he's qualified. God just reaches out and touches his mouth and says, "There, I've put my words in you." Heaven never debates your excuses. Heaven simply equips you past them. Every reason you have for why it can't be you, heaven heard it, and heaven moved on. The angels did not come to win an argument with your insecurity. They came to put something in you that wasn't there before. So if you're sitting there making your list too young, too old, too broken, too late, too much of a mess, understand that Jeremiah made that exact list, and God answered every single point with one word. Before. You were known before. You were set apart before. And what was placed in you before is now, in this season, being called out of you. I want to talk to you directly for a moment, because there may be someone watching who is at the very end of their strength. You've been faithful, and it hasn't worked. You've believed, and it broke you. You're not even sure why you clicked on this except that you were desperate enough to hope one more time. If that's you, I want you to know the messengers were sent precisely because you are at the end of yourself. Heaven does not wait for you to be strong. Heaven moves when you are finally too weak to get in the way. There are messages that pass through your eyes, and there are messages that pass through your spirit. If something in you recognized itself while watching, don't dismiss it. That is the Spirit confirming what was already written. The secret protocol carries 7 keys that unveil what heaven deposited in you before you ever arrived. Things no one around you has ever been able to name. It comes with the full audiobook for your moments of prayer, silence, and encounter with God. And you also receive the Awakening Map, the guide that illuminates the 5 seasons of spiritual awakening, revealing with precision exactly where you are and what comes next. The link is pinned in the first comment, but only for a limited time. Don't let this moment pass without a response. I'm George, and I don't say any of this from a stage looking down at you. I say it as someone who spent years convinced his own silence meant abandonment. I know what it is to pray until your throat is dry and feel like the words evaporated before they ever got anywhere. So when I tell you the silence was preparation, I'm not handing you a slogan. I'm handing you something I had to learn the hard way, on my knees. In seasons I wouldn't wish on anyone but wouldn't trade for anything now. Let me go back to the angels, because I haven't told you yet what their warning actually is. There's a pattern in Scripture that you start to notice once you've seen it a few times. Whenever heaven is about to do something significant through a person, there's almost always a messenger sent ahead of it, not after, before. The angel comes before the assignment, not after the success. And the reason is mercy. Because what's coming is so much bigger than what the person has known that they need to be warned, prepared, steadied before it arrives. The warning is grace. It's God refusing to let the weight of your destiny crush you by showing up unannounced. Think about Mary. Before she carried anything, an angel came to tell her what she was about to carry. The announcement came before the assignment, and the angel's first words, "Do not be afraid." Because the natural human response to a destiny this large is terror, and heaven knows it. So the messenger comes first to say, before this gets heavy, before this gets hard, before this asks more of you than you think you can give, do not be afraid. You have found favor. That word, favor, gets thrown around so much it's lost its weight. But favor is not the absence of difficulty. Mary's favor included a pregnancy nobody believed, a reputation she would never fully repair, and a sword that would one day pierce her own soul as she watched her son die. Favor and hardship walk together. They always do. The favor is not that the road is easy. The favor is that you were chosen to walk it, and you will not walk it alone. So here is the warning the 2 angels carry into your life. Get ready, because the thing you prayed for is bigger than you imagined, and it's going to ask more of you than the version of you that prayed it. The answer isn't just going to change your circumstances. It's going to change you. And there's a part of the old you that has to be left in the wine press, like Gideon, before the new you can walk out into the open. I told you this would feel like a warning, not a comfort. And maybe right now there's a tension in your chest, because part of you wants the breakthrough, but part of you is afraid of who you'll have to become to hold it. That tension is normal. That tension is, honestly, the most spiritually healthy thing you could be feeling right now. It means you're taking it seriously. Let me tell you about Elijah, because I think his story holds the next piece for you. Elijah had just won the greatest spiritual victory of his life. Fire fell from heaven. The false prophets were defeated. He outran a chariot. And then, and this is the part that always stuns me, right after the mountaintop, he's sitting under a tree in the wilderness, asking God to let him die. From the highest high to the lowest low in the space of a single chapter. Exhausted, depleted, convinced he was the only one left and that it was all for nothing. And what does God do with a burned-out prophet who wants to quit? He doesn't rebuke him. He doesn't list his failures. He sends an angel. The angel doesn't preach. The angel cooks. The angel touches Elijah and says, "Get up and eat." Lets him sleep, wakes him again, feeds him again. Because the angel could see what Elijah couldn't, that the journey ahead was too great for him in his current state, and before there could be more assignment, there had to be restoration. Some of you don't need a strategy right now. You need an angel to tell you to eat and sleep. You've been so spiritual about your exhaustion that you've forgotten heaven cares about your body and your rest and your humanity. The same God who sends prophets to anoint kings sends angels to make sure tired men eat bread. If you are depleted right now, hear me. The warning is not get to work. The warning is get restored, because what's ahead requires a version of you that is fed, not running on fumes. And here's the strange beauty of it. The angel fed Elijah for a journey Elijah didn't even know he was about to take. The strength was given before the assignment was revealed. That's how heaven works. It prepares you for what it hasn't told you yet. So, if you've been feeling lately a strange gathering of strength, you can't explain a resilience that surprises even you, pay attention. You might be being fed for a road you can't see yet. Let me bring this home with David, because David's story closes the circle. Before David was a king, he was a forgotten kid in a field. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, David's own father didn't even call him in from watching the sheep. 7 sons paraded by. The prophet looked at the tall one, the strong one, the obvious one, and heaven said, "No, not him, not him, not him." And finally Samuel asks, "Are these all your sons?" And the father, almost as an afterthought, says, "Well, there's the youngest, but he's out with the sheep." There's the youngest, out with the sheep, not even worth interrupting the meeting for. And that's the one heaven came for. The overlooked one, the one nobody counted, the one who had been faithful in a field where no human being was watching, killing lions and bears with no audience, no applause, no recognition, just him and God and the sheep. And here's what I need the overlooked ones watching this to understand. The faithfulness you've shown when nobody was watching is the exact resume heaven was reading. While you thought your private faithfulness was going unnoticed, the prayers nobody heard, the integrity nobody rewarded, the way you kept showing up for people who never thanked you, heaven was taking notes. The field was never a waste. The field was the interview. David didn't get anointed because he was impressive in front of people. He got anointed because of who he was in front of no one. And if you have been faithful in obscurity, faithful in the small thing, faithful when there was no earthly reason to be, the 2 angels in this season have come precisely to tell you that the field is ending. Samuel is on his way. The oil is in the horn. And the overlooked one is about to be called in from the sheep. There's one more story I have to give you before I let you go, because somebody watching needs it specifically. Somebody watching has failed. Not stumbled, failed. Denied God in a moment that mattered. Walked away from something they should have stood for. and they've been carrying it ever since, convinced that the failure disqualified them from whatever they once thought they were called to. If that's you, this is for you. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, not in private, out loud, in front of strangers, swearing he never even knew the man, at the exact moment Jesus needed a friend most. And then the rooster crowed, and Peter remembered, and he went out and wept bitterly. That's a man who believed he had ended his own story. That's a man who thought the call was over, that he'd thrown it away with his own mouth. And here's where it gets real. After the resurrection, there's a morning on a beach. Jesus has made a fire, cooked some fish, and he's waiting for Peter. And he doesn't bring up the denial to shame him. Instead, he asks one question 3 times. Peter, do you love me? 3 times. The same number of times Peter denied him. Because heaven was not interested in punishing the failure. Heaven was interested in healing it, exactly as deep as it went. 3 denials, 3 restorations. And then the assignment, feed my sheep. Take care of my people. The very thing Peter thought he'd lost the right to do was handed right back to him, on the other side of his worst moment. So, if you've been sitting in the corner of your own life because of something you did or didn't do, hear me carefully. The 2 angels did not come because you have a clean record. They came because the call on you was never canceled by your failure. Heaven knew you would fall before it ever chose you, and it chose you anyway. The fire is already lit on the beach. Breakfast is already made. And the question isn't, what did you do? The question is the same one Peter heard. Do you love me? That's all. The restoration is waiting on the other side of a yes. So let me gather all of this up, because I want you to walk away with it. The silence was not rejection. It was a battle being fought over an answer worth fighting for. The restlessness is not you falling apart. It's you being prepared. The exhaustion is not the end. It's the moment before the angel brings you bread. And the obscurity, the years nobody saw. The faithfulness that went unrewarded, that was never wasted. That was heaven, reading your resume. The 2 messengers are not here to frighten you. They are here to warn you the way you warn someone you love and are about to promote. Get ready, because the prayers you thought died in the dark were heard the first day you prayed them. And the answer has been on its way through a war you couldn't see, toward a future you can't yet imagine, carried by hands stronger than anything that ever tried to stop it. Remember Daniel, the answer left on day 1. Remember Gideon, heaven called him by his future, not his hiding place. Remember Hannah, her private ache became a nation's deliverance. Remember Jeremiah, known and set apart before the womb. Remember Elijah, fed by an angel before the journey he didn't see coming. Remember David, anointed for who he was when no one watched. And remember Peter, restored exactly as deep as he fell. Every one of them stood where you're standing right now, in the silence, in the questions, in the not knowing. And every one of them was being fought for the whole time. You were never forgotten. You were being fought for. Now I want you to do something before you go. And I want it to be specific, because this isn't a moment for a generic comment. I want you to think back to one prayer, one specific prayer that you were sure God never heard, the one that hurt the most when it seemed to go unanswered. Don't tell me your whole story. Just tell me the one prayer you had given up on. Write it in the comments, even in a few words, because I believe something shifts in the unseen the moment you stop treating it as dead and start treating it as heard. And I'll be reading. So will. Someone far more important than me. Tell me the prayer you thought went nowhere, and let's find out together where it's actually been all this time.